Sorry about that, guys. The video cut itself into two. So, here we go. Now, as I was saying, to take full advantage of the 12 megapixels, you are restricted to the 4:3 aspect ratio. I don't like to shoot in 4:3 aspect ratio. I like to shoot in this widescreen 16:9 aspect ratio. In order to get that, you have to bump it down to 8.3 megapixels. So, that's that for the rear camera on the 5X, and the same can be said for the front camera. If you want to take advantage of all 5 megapixels, you got to shoot in 4:3 again. If you want to get the widescreen, you're going to have to bump down to 2.1 megapixels. Yeah. Now, in terms of video, the Nexus 5X can shoot with the rear-facing camera. It can shoot 4K UHD, 1080p, and 720p. And then for the front-facing camera, you can't shoot 4K, but you can do 1080p, 720p, and standard HD. Alright, so that's pretty much it when it comes to the camera and the interface on the Nexus 5X. Let me load up the first the first picture sample, and then real quick before we look at some picture samples, I'm going to go over the interface of the Moto X PE Edition. Real quick, because I almost forgot, these two phones do have quick camera access features. In order to quickly get into the camera on your I almost messed it up. On your Moto X PE Edition, all you gotta do is do the quick flick of the wrist. Right? And you go right in. So flick of the wrist, and you right in. To access the camera on your 5X, quick double tap of the power button. And we in. It's that quick. It's that easy. We in there, lemon squeezy. Just like that. Now, I actually like both of these. I cannot for the life of me tell you which one I prefer over the other, but they're both pretty good. Just wanted to point that out before I forgot, because I almost did. So, now, back on task, 5x5. Let's talk about the interface and the features on the Moto X PE Edition camera. Now, as you launch the camera, it's a pretty simple and straightforward interface. You don't really get too much controls. It's pretty much tap and shoot. In order to switch between the front and rear facing cameras, you push this button here. And now we in the front camera. How you doing, guys? Alright. And then go back. And to take videos, you push that guy there. Now we're taking the video. You can also take photos within your video by tapping on the screen. Just took a photo. Let's stop that video there. Alright. Now, and of course, to take a photo, you just tap the screen. Bam. And the photo's taken. To access more options, you swipe in from this side here, and now you have your options. So you got your auto HDR, you got your auto flash, you can change your video resolutions. So as you can see right there, this phone shoots in 1080p. You have slow-mo, which is at 720p, and I think it's also 120 frames per second slow-mo. And you have your Ultra HD or your UHD 4K video. So this camera as well can do 4K video. Now, when it comes to resolutions, you don't have as many resolution stops as on the Nexus 5X, but to take full advantage of the 21 megapixels, once again, you are restricted to a 4:3 aspect ratio. And like I said previously, I like to shoot in widescreen, so I usually like to switch it to there. Now, that being said, you could turn on and off the timer. Sorry, having a little issue focusing. Losing some light. You turn off and on the timer. You can add manual focus as you slide through this wheel here. You could do location tracking, all that good stuff. Usually what I like to do to get more control out of this is I like to turn on, wait, that was the wrong one. I think it was right. It's in there somewhere, unless it's on already. So you can turn on tap to focus. I'm not sure where it is right now, unless it's on already. Okay, it's on already. So you can manually focus, and you can manually adjust the exposure. That's pretty cool. So, okay, that's it for the camera interface. Now, let's look at some picture samples. Oh, and then that was the picture I just took. We're not going to look at that one, though. Alright, let me get to something. Okay. So, in terms of picture samples, and I know my camera won't do it justice, but both of these cameras can capture some really good footage. Whether it be videos or photos, I think you're going to be really happy if you pick up either one of these devices. Alright? All that really matters here with either one of these devices is how much light you can get in to get the proper lighting on your subject, and then you can get good pictures. So I have to say both cameras on these devices are pretty good. And once again, just have to throw my opinion in there that for the life of me, I don't really know which camera to choose, which camera's better. They're both really good. So for the life of me, I couldn't choose which camera was better. Just had to say that. Now, moving on, this would be the part in my normal reviews where I would do a gaming test. Now, I'm not going to do a gaming test in this comparison because the guts on both of these devices are pretty much the same. It's got the same Snapdragon 808 processor. It's got the same Adreno 14 GPU. So, for all intents and purposes, both of these devices handle games like a champ. No issues. And I will, however, tell you the games that I tested on both of these devices, which are pretty much the same. My main go-to games, when I feel like playing games, I usually like to play Asphalt 8 or Fruit Ninja. Now, when I'm in my review process, I try to tax the hell out of these phones. And I do this by finding some very graphically intensive games. So some of the graphically intensive games that I used to test both of these phones were Asphalt 8, Nova 3, Modern Combat, Fruit Ninja, Subway Surfer, all that good stuff. Real Racing 3, and yeah, I think that was it. Can't remember all of them exactly. I think that was it. And these two phones handled gaming like a champ. So, no issues when it comes to gaming whatsoever. But, I do gotta put in there that if you want a game on your Nexus 5X, you're gonna have to be very, very space conscious, because the Nexus 5X does not have expandable storage. So there's no micro SD card expansion on this guy. Whereas if you go with the Moto X PE edition, you do get micro SD card expansion up to 128 gigs. And with the update to Marshmallow, you can also make your micro SD card your internal storage. So just had to put that out there. And also, before I forget, because I don't know if I mentioned it, but I just want to show you guys real quick. This is the same loadout on both devices, and I just want to show you guys. If you let that focus. right here on average, I'm using 1.9 gigabytes of memory. So that's about 77%. Still runs smoothly. Right there, 33 apps. Right? Also, if you come over here, I'm using 1.3 gigs of memory on average, and that's about 73%. Now, that might have been wrong for my review, because I think I said 55 for the Moto X PE Edition, and you can see it's the same 33 apps. Just wanted to point that out. So, it is what it is. 2 gigs versus 3, it doesn't really make that much of a difference in overall usage. Now, that being said, I got a little sidetracked. Now let's talk about the benchmarks in these guys. And I'm going to have to speed this up. I'm losing daylight here. So, let's get to these benchmarks. And let's start off with 3D Mark. Here, let me find it on this. So, okay, there we go. So, let's start with the 5X. So, in terms of the 3D Mark benchmark, and the Nexus 5X scored a 17,719, whereas the Moto X PE Edition scored a 19,420. Now, these benchmarks just baffle me, because as I've said earlier, it's the same exact chipset and GPU set loadout. So these scores should have been a tad bit closer in my opinion. So for Antutu, the Nexus 5X scored a 57,480, whereas the Moto X PE Edition scored a 68,034. Moving on, in terms of quadrant, the Nexus 5X scored a 18,898, whereas the Moto X scored a 18,528. Now, let's keep it moving. Let me see. Alright. The other way. Alright, so now, in terms of the Volemo benchmark, the Nexus 5X scored a 2,131, and it was ranked 3rd overall, whereas the Moto X PE Edition scored a 2472, and it was ranked 2nd. And let's go here. Let's go here. Now, still in Volemo, we did a multi-core benchmark where the Nexus 5X scored a 1,714 and pretty much scored in the middle to bottom end of the pack, whereas the Moto X PE Edition scored a 2,309 and came in 2nd again. So, oh wait, still got one more benchmark here. So now we're going to move to the next benchmark. I think this is the last one. This is Geekbench 3, where the Nexus 5X in the single core score scored a 964, and in the multi-score scored a 3,119, whereas the Moto X PE Edition scored a 1241 in the single score and a 3,431 in the multi-core. Alright, so I think that about does it for the benchmarks. And now I only include the benchmarks because I like to include those raw numbers. So now you have raw performance data to somewhat help you make the decision. But as I've said in some of my previous videos, the benchmarks mean absolutely nothing. In order to get a solid device, you need the right combination of hardware and software that equals an overall smooth experience, which equals an overall good user experience. I just like the benchmarks. So that was the benchmarks. Now, for one of my favorite parts, let's talk about the battery life in this guy. Now, alright. Now, I don't really have to show you guys. I can just tell you. In terms of battery life, let's start off with this Moto X PE edition here. So in terms of battery life, going through my scenarios, when it comes to my scenarios, I pretty much hit 4 hours every time. With the exception of when I tweaked some settings, I was able to get 7 hours of screen on time. But pretty much going through my scenarios, I was able to get 4 hours with 4 hours of screen on time pretty much every time with this guy. Except for when I changed the settings, and then I got just over 7 hours. Alright, now battery life on the Nexus 5X is a little bit better. Now, with light use, I can easily get through the day with battery to spare. With moderate use, I can easily get a good 12 hours with about 3 hours of screen on time. With heavy use, I can get 7 hours. With overall, I think it was 10 hours of actual runtime. So the battery life on here edges out the battery life on here. But depending on what type of user you are, I'm pretty sure these phones can pretty much, if you're a light to moderate user, either one of these phones can get you through the day. Now, if you're a super user, power user, you're going to end up charging these guys at least once, if not twice, throughout the day. Just had to throw that out there. Now, that being said, let's talk about the price difference between these guys. And I'm sorry guys, I'm losing the light here. Let me try and crank these screens to make it more visible. And we're going to crank this screen. Okay, so even if you lose my hands, you can still see the screens while I talk. Alright, so now let's talk about the price on these guys. And just to make sure they don't fall asleep, just going to keep them going. So, price-wise, let's start over here this time. For just the device itself, without the micro SD card, without the case, I paid $377 for this. Now, with the SD card and all the stuff, it came up to about, what was it, about $438. Alright. Now, for just the device itself over here, for the Nexus 5X, this is actually on sale. You pay about just over $300 for this. Now, for everything that I picked up with this, the case, the cable, and yeah, I think that's all I picked up. This came up to about $357. So, there are the prices. That being said, let me give y'all my overall recommendations now, and give y'all my opinion. Now, this is where my opinion comes into play. Overall, in my testing of both these devices, first of all, I believe that both of these devices should have been priced the same. Okay, let's go with LG. If LG wants this to fly off the shelves, they should have dropped this to $300 a long time ago. Although, granted, Nexus phones generally fly off the shelf no matter what price. Even back when the Nexus 6 came out, even when it was $650, it was still sold out. Now, I would never buy it for that price, but it was just funny to see that even that was sold out. But in order to get these to fly off the shelves, $300 is a great price, because the price to feature set ratio on this is awesome. Alright, now over here, this also, if it was priced at $300, this would have just flew off the shelf. It technically flies off the shelf now, but for where it started at, could have been a little bit lower. Now, there's a few things that make the price on this go up, because you can use Motor Maker to customize this in a ton of different ways, so you can get this device exactly how you want it. You got other backs, you got leather backs, you can get engravings, you can do all that good stuff. So in that respect, that price is not going to move too much. But for the stock device in the stock configuration, $377 is a good price. You know what? Just for struggling purposes, we're going to call it $380. So for the stock configuration, you know, no customization, $380 is a great price. And this, once again, for the stock configuration, I believe when this first came out, it was what, $424 for this, and $30 more, so like $454 for the 32 gig. That, when this first came out, I considered that too much money. Now it's on sale for $300 for the 16 gig and $350 for the 32 gig. That is right around where I believe it should have been priced from the beginning. And at that price, this is an incredible feature set. And like I said, also at the $380 price, this is an incredible feature set as well. Alright, so that being said, final recommendation time. I guess if I had to give a recommendation, it all comes down to the size of the device and, you know, what you want to tote around, because these are both great devices. So I can easily recommend any one of these two. But if you're someone who doesn't like big devices, then I would suggest that you pick up the Nexus 5X. If you're someone that's okay with picking up a larger device, then I would suggest you pick up the Moto X Pure Edition. But either way, I can honestly recommend either one of these. Now, if you're doing this choice in terms of price, right now, this Nexus 5X is on sale for $300. So in terms of price, I would say go ahead and pick this up. Keep in mind now, you are losing some things that this guy offers. No micro SD card expansion. You got front-facing speakers here, whereas the one speaker here. But you are gaining some things that this guy doesn't have. Mainly, you have a notification LED. This one doesn't have that. It would have been cool if they could have made the front-facing flash some type of notification LED, like what the LG phones do, but it doesn't do that. So, and also, you get a fingerprint scanner on this guy, where you don't get one on this guy. But, all in all, I do believe that these, right now, should be priced around $300. Honestly, I believe that's where they should have started at. Yeah. But, that being said, there's my full comparison of the Nexus 5X and the Moto X Pure Edition. Now, once again, guys, I'm sorry. I thought I started with enough light to make it through the video. So, this video got kind of dark, and I apologize for that. But, there you have it. I'm done. It's going out like this. This is what you're going to see. It's raw, it's uncut, it's real. Anyways, guys, Thank y'all for tuning in. If y'all enjoyed the video, please help your boy out and give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You don't know how much. If you want to see more raw, uncut content like this, please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below so you get notified as soon as videos become available on YouTube. And also, if you know anyone out there looking for great devices at some really great prices, please go ahead and share with them my channel. I do all the grunt work and research, so you guys don't have to. You just find something you like on my channel, click the links down below, click, boom, your device is on its way. And also, before I get up out of here, if you guys have any questions on either one of these devices, please leave them down in the comments. I do read all the comments. I try to answer back in a timely fashion. Whew, that was a lot. Alright. So, I think that about sums it all up. I hope you guys have a good day. Actually, it's getting into evening time right about now, so I hope you guys have a good evening. And once again, I apologize for the lighting. I don't have good lighting. I tried to use as much sun as possible. Didn't work out too well. Anyways, I'll see you guys in my next video, and you guys have a great evening. Peace.